Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, call halal Yahweh, Shem Yahushua, Shem Kakwadash. Double honors once again go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, who, through the Holy Spirit, continue to give us His truth. This is Nama of the DC camp. Also, salutations to all other Akim, across the globe, the four corners. All right, pushing this truth out with all sincerity. All right. Uh, this is something that just blew my mind because I had no idea. Just when you thought you had heard it all, well, you know the rest. And this is something I guess it's my own fault because I'd failed to ask certain questions. And it just shows you the level of hate that these devils have for us. And in this particular case, this child, all right, in the eyes, now we know that biblically, he's considered a man, but no, we're going by the standards of America. And we know the difference between how an Edomite child is treated and a Jake child is treated. All right. So what they did here, well, let me get into it. This is from MSNBC, and it says Emmett Till case being closed by DOJ, the Department of Justice, guarantees no one will pay for his lynching. All right. It says for decades, if not centuries, Americans have persisted in the belief that the South is separate and distinct from the rest of the country. It's commonly held that the politics that have governed the region, the atrocities that have happened there, and the inadequate responses to those atrocities belong to the South and the South alone. Now, of course, we know better. It's the whole damn country. All right, but like they say, there's that perceived notion that there's a difference between the North and South. All right, they just have their different approaches in dealing with us. That's it. It says, but the widespread racism that allowed Emmett Till's killers to escape accountability is one of many reasons we can dismiss such a belief as fantastical. Americans have persisted in the belief that the South is separate and distinct from the rest of the country. In the summer of 1955, Till 14, they keep saying it's black, I'm so sick of that. It says, resident of Chicago was visiting his mother's people in the Mississippi Delta. He was kidnapped, tortured, and killed by Roy Bryant and J.W. Mellum, two Edomite men who accused him of being sassy with Bryant's wife in a country grocery store. See, this all could have been settled right then and there, but no. That's why you can't excuse this motherfucker's cave bitch, all right? He says the brothers threw his body into the Tallahatchie River, apparently in the hope that it would never surface. But it did surface. And when it did, people across the country and around the world were forced to acknowledge the horrible fate that could befall a so-called black child in the U.S. because the mother requested an open casket because she wanted everyone to see what they had done to her son. All right? It says, yes, the whole U.S., the Mississippi justice system failed when it acquitted the men who would later boast about killing him. But the U.S., specifically the military, and this is the part I did not know, played its part when it created the awful impression that Till was genetically predisposed to hurt women. Now get a load of this. The Justice Department on Monday closed a recent investigation into Till's lynching without charging anyone. Because it was even harder in the 50s and 60s to convict so-called white people who murder black people, the Justice Department has a cold case division that has occasionally brought some measure of justice to killers who face juries fundamentally opposed to conviction. And yet, you would have these fake Jews that go out of their way to bring a motherfucker that's at death's door, bring a motherfucker like that to court for some shit that didn't happen the way they said it happened, and outright lie. But here, where you had the people admitted that they did the shit and nobody did a damn thing. And this is why, as I read further down, it says, but in the case of Till's murderers, someone with access to military files made it even less likely that his killers would be punished. While they were on trial on kidnapping and murder charges, someone leaked a confidential military file to the press indicating that Till's father, Louis Till, a U.S. soldier in Italy during World War II, was hanged by the Army in 1945 for rape and murder. So we're just talking about 10 years prior to this. Never trust our enemy, like we always say. Sirach, Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 10. Remember, this is considered a child. In lieu of the already sordid history of the South. But no, they had to make sure that these bastards, these pieces of shit, would get off. Something totally unrelated, but they tried to relate to by saying he was predisposed because of what happened with his father. And it says here, which isn't necessarily proof that Private Louis Till was guilty, because we know the history. All right? We know the history. There's no, well, I can't say that because you just have people that, I don't know, because they have weak minds, or they're just as wicked as the pieces of shit we're talking about here. You know, they'll feed into shit like this. Oh, well, maybe there's something to that psychiatric bullshit, you know. But see, they got means of, when there are people who actually do shit like this, all right, they have ways, and you know, with their amendments to their own laws and such, to get them off. That's why we, what's the word? We try to stress, why put your trust in a system as racist and as wicked and evil as the American criminal justice system? It makes no damn sense. You could continue to be raped, robbed, murdered, lied on, lied about, lied to, and just put through the ringer. We just had another Jake that after 4 decades just got out for something he didn't do. I meant to do a video on it, I just remembered. Someone else the other day, where was it? Again, with this Edomite woman, accused him of stealing her phone. And the person that worked in the wherever she was called her number. It was in her purse. All these things, and yet here it is. This particular case, over 60 years ago. Child didn't do nothing to her. And on her deathbed some years ago, she confessed that nothing actually happened. But like I said just a little while earlier, this all could have been nipped in the bud right there. They went into where this boy stayed, this young man stayed, grabbed him up, snatched him out of the house. And we know that in cases, most of the time, the police were involved. That's another thing. So here you have, we have always been prey, P-R-E-Y. All right, and that's because of the curses. But see, it comes to a point where these people know we have no means of protecting ourselves. We have to, and again, part of the curses, we have to go to this piece of shit, this so-called white man who whose uh, whose nationality biblically is that of Edom. All right, but things are turning around now. People are starting to wake up as to who this piece of shit really is. This is one of the reasons why you have COVID now. It's a distraction. All right, they're trying to move along and establish this new world order that you people thought, I don't know, people that mentioned something like this were either crazy. Well, you're going to find out that we were not crazy. We were trying to warn you, but you know, a nigger always wants to have fun. You know, he's not thinking of what's actually happening and the plans that these so-called white people have for your black ass, so-called. All right. Ooh, you were in for it. That's why lately in all my videos I brought up, there's a reason that Daniel 12:1 is there. Say it's going to be a time unlike any other in world history. And we're talking about, as far as our people, to where the Archangel Michael has to stand up. Because this devil is serious. You think he wants to fall out of power? All the people he's fucked over, the centuries that he's been in power? Think about that. Anyway, continuing on with this, I didn't mean to ramble. It says the Army hanged a disproportionately high number of black servicemen on accusations of sexual misconduct. So disproportionately high that we have every reason to suspect that racist stereotypes about black men were driving the numbers the same way those stereotypes resulted in so many black bodies swinging from tree limbs. Like, duh. John Edgar Wideman, who reveals exculpatory evidence that casts serious doubt on Louis Till's guilt in his 2016 book, Writing to Save a Life, The Louis Till File, visited a section of a French cemetery reserved for executed U.S. servicemen. As he researched that book, he found that 83 of the 96 who had been executed were black. God dang. 83 of the 96 who had been executed were black. This is, man. Oh boy. That's a hell of a percentage. This is, this is Psalms 43rd chapter, once I get it. Verse 1. It says, Judge me, O Most High Yahweh, and plead my cause against an ungodly nation. Can't get more ungodly than them because they are the wicked. Malachi 1st chapter, verses 1 through 4. O deliver me from the deceitful and unjust man. Two, for thou art the God of my strength, why dost thou cast me off? And this is what, you know, you have to ask that question, because at certain times you feel like, you know, why, oh why? But you got to remember, we're the ones that went off. We broke that contract. And as a consequence for breach of contract, for breaking a contract, there are penalties. All right? AKA as a covenant. All right? And that was only given to one people. And it says in Deuteronomy 28, 43 through 45, that those curses were a sign, all right, that would cling to us, and that would help identify. All right? And these things would follow us. All right? It says, why go I mourning because of the oppression of the enemy? All right? And it's never going to stop because, as I just stated, this man knows that he's fucked up. He knows who we are, the elites anyway. Some of the others have figured it out also. This is, let me go to here, Psalm 71, staying in Psalms. Right, and 4 it says, "Deliver me, O my power, out of the hand of the wicked, out of the hand of the unrighteous and cruel man." Continuing on, it says, "The U.S. Army War College had previously published a report finding that Negro soldiers were unmoral and untruthful, in addition to being careless, shiftless, oh, there go that word, irresponsible, and secretive. We can connect that racist belief with the result. Black soldiers, who were no more than 10% of soldiers during World War II, accounted for 86% of those the Army deemed deserving of execution." So here you, Jake, thinking that he's doing something and serving his country. I don't know, for obvious reasons. I've heard some say because we pay taxes. Yes, I actually heard old Jake say that. And I personally talked to a Jake. I'm here in the District of Columbia. This was back in the 90s. This Jake was in his early 80s, so you know he went through some shit, you know, do the math. But he told me of the time that on these rail cars where you had German prisoners, they put Jake in these like cattle car setups, and the German prisoners of war were treated all nice and ate good food and all this shit. And it carried on through Korea and Vietnam. When I was in the service, I had staff NCOs tell us how at certain points where you had Edomites, they would take showers at certain times, and the Jakes would take showers. You know, it's some fucked up shit. But Jake, and that also was the same conversation, by the way. I have to bring this out since Colin Powell died, but they would talk about how he, as a young captain, I'm talking about 03, in the Army, was, you know, when things were happening as far as discrimination and things were being reported, it didn't, you know, I did a report on that right after he died. I did a video. And even in that same article, it talked about how he just cashed it off as like, you know, whatever. You know, and the soldiers were like, well, damn, but I don't want to get, you know, off on another topic, but you got Jakes like that, you know. They want to make it no matter what. They don't give a shit. They got that single eye, and they don't give a damn about their own people. All right, but anyway, back to this. Continuing on, it says, "We should view the War College's report and the execution of the elder Till as proof that the U.S. military believed as strongly as the state of Mississippi did that black men were inherently criminal. Why did you let them in the service? See? But the release of the father's file destroyed any chance that Emmett Till's killers would be convicted of kidnapping. Why? They lived out their days as unrepentant and unpunished murderers. That's why the Justice Department's announcement in 2018 that it had reopened the Till case didn't cause any excitement. What was the point of reopening the case in 2018 when Bryant and Millam were long dead? According to a memo the Justice Department sent to Congress, the Till case has been reopened by DOJ based upon the discovery of new information. The only publicly known new information had come from historian Timothy Tyson, who, in his book, The Blood of Emmett Till, quotes the star witness in the case as disavowing her testimony. Carolyn Bryant Donham had had testified that Till grabbed her around her waist and rudely propositioned her. But according to Tyson, she told him in an interview that part's not true. You tell these stories for so long that they seem true, but that part is not true. Like I said, she was on her deathbed here at this point. Upon publication of Tyson's book, and he sat on this information, by the way, for a while. It says Donham denied having made such a confession. Tyson maintains that she did. The Justice Department said in a memo Monday that it was impossible to prove that the woman at the center of the country's most infamous lynching, had ever lied to investigators. From that memo, what is clear from all accounts is that Donham suffered no physical harm and that Till's conduct was likely perceived by many in the white community to violate their unwritten code, prevalent in the Jim Crow South, that black men were forbidden from initiating interactions with white women. The Justice Department memo attempts to explain that there were unwritten codes in the South complements a common explanation of Till's interaction with Donham in that store. According to that explanation, because Till grew up in Chicago and not Mississippi, he didn't know the rules dictated by segregation. And thus, such speculation goes, says Till blithely interacted with a white woman without sufficient caution. But Chicago was and still is segregated, and Tyson is spot on when he writes in The Blood of Emmett Till that it defies the imagination that a 14-year-old from 1950 Chicago could really be ignorant of the consequences of the color of his skin. He knew segregation and the machinery dedicated to enforcing it because he was a black person raised in the U.S. Though the Justice Department blames the South for Till's death, we shouldn't accept its attempt to dismiss the South as some other country. Though the Justice Department blames Donham and the South for Till's death, we shouldn't accept its attempt to dismiss the South as some other country. As was indicated by the Army report labeling black men as inherently immoral, and that's why I hate that black shit, you stupid motherfuckers that keep calling yourself black. That's exactly what they're telling you in your face every fucking day. And you've been conditioned to love, I'm black. Anyway, it says the stereotypes about black men weren't endemic to any particular region. The Army put the boy's father to death despite exculpatory evidence, and that information was then put to nefarious use, making the acquittal of his son's killers even more likely than it already was. No, the Emmett Till lynching isn't just a Southern story or a summer of 1955 story. It's a multi-generational and wholly American tragedy for which no one has ever been or ever will be made to account. Goddamn shame. Fuck these motherfuckers. Ain't this some shit? So there you have it. Good old America. Hey, so with that, shalom.